So despite Warden Norton's attempts to suppress Andy and keep him in Shawshank Penitentiary where he can control him and sort of exploit his intelligence and keep this laundering going, Andy outsmarts everybody and makes his escape. So in 1975, Andy escapes Shawshank Prison by tunneling through the concrete. So over all the years, he's tunneled through the concrete and then escapes by entering into the sewer pipe across the whole sort of exercise yard, and then coming out on the other side of this pipe where we're assuming that he followed through on his plans and ended up in Mexico. So the reveal of this moment in the film is really sort of satisfying to see Samuel Norton get his sort of comeuppance, justice is served, and his sort of corruption and hypocrisy is met with, he meets his, or he gets his just desserts, so to speak, right? There is retribution. And in the book, Warden Norton suffers from this sort of nervous breakdown when he discovers the whole behind Andy's Linda Ronstadt poster. All this time, starting from the Rita Hayworth poster, so for 30 years, Andy's had posters of pin-up women on his cell wall, and he keeps sort of switching them out as they get tattered, but at this point in the 1970s, Linda Ronstadt's the one that's on the wall. And then Norton discovers this when Andy is not in his cell, and they finally discover that he has in fact tunneled through the concrete and escaped from Shawshank Prison. And then he, hits the roof, he blows up, he screams, and he becomes completely hysterical. And Red describes this scene on page 88. He says, It was as if Andy's defection from our happy little family had driven Norton right over the edge of some private irrationality that had been there for a long time. Certainly he was crazy that night. I don't know what that private irrationality might have been, of course, but I do know there were 26 cons listening to Norton's little dust-up. We all knew that Warden Samuel Norton had just passed what the engineers like to call the breaking strain. And by God, it almost seemed to me that somewhere I could hear Andy Dufresne laughing. So Andy Dufresne, he has the upper hand at this stage, right? He has outsmarted everybody and surprised everybody by staging his escape. And Red's reaction is also reveals, the fact that he starts laughing at Norton, and he just can't help himself. He feels so much happiness that the fact that Andy has in fact set himself free despite all the opposition and obstacles in his life. So this is Red's reaction on page 89. I started laughing, fit to split, a laugh such as I'd never had since I was a free man, the kind of laugh I never expected to have inside these gray walls. And oh dear God, didn't it feel good. And even though he's sentenced to solitary at this stage because he's laughing, doesn't affect Red at all. He said he did it on his head because it was so easy, because he kept thinking about Andy driving down to Mexico, headed for the Pacific Ocean. So this vision of Andy is enough to carry him easily through the solitary, because he has this image of Andy successfully achieving his dreams of freedom. So we also learn a little bit about Andy's character, and it sort of shows us some of his characterization in the way that he got his freedom. So he achieved it through There was a little bit of luck involved, right, with the concrete being crumbly, and the fact that that was a factor in his in that he was able to sort of tunnel through it. But it's also his determination, right? He is somebody who persists even when faced with obstacles, and he had the sort of courage and drive to make his dreams a reality. And then this idea of geology, his perseverance and hard work, that's been evident all the time when he sort of spends night after night polishing rocks. So we already know he's a persistent man, the way he's pursued funds for the library. This is also connected to geology on page 92. So this is Red discussing Andy's love of geology. He's a man who graduated from the University of Maine School of Business, but he's also a man who took 2 or 3 geology courses along the way. Geology had in fact become his chief hobby. I imagine it appealed to his patient, meticulous nature. A 10,000-year ice age here, a million years of mountain building there, plates of bedrock grinding against each other, deep under the Earth's skin over the millennia. Pressure, Andy told me once, that all of geology is the study of pressure, and time, of course. And if you think back to an earlier passage where Red describes the prison itself as a pressure cooker, and the posters as kind of a vent to release that pressure, this is also sort of fits into our discussion of rocks and geology, and how this is a sort of theme or motif that gets picked up repeatedly in reference to how the prisoners exist in this prison system. So Andy got interested in rocks. His interest was also used to dig his way through the concrete of his cells. So concrete was something he was also working on, shaping it into his escape. And he used the rock polishing as kind of a front for his escape plan, right? He used the rock hammer to dig through the walls, and he would walk through the exercise yard and dispose of the concrete once it's been ground down. So he got rid of that by walking and shuffling his feet where you drop the sand and it would disappear in the wind. So cupful by cupful, he released the concrete from his cell into the exercise yard. Red also reveals that the timeline in which Andy sort of goes about all of this tunneling and digging, he believes it started back when Andy first asked for that Rita Hayworth poster, and that would have been the time when he would have discovered the crumbly texture of the concrete and possibly have started digging and then needed the poster to cover over the hole. And he also reveals the fact that, this is on page 97, that Andy must have broken through the entire shaft in 1967, but he didn't actually escape until 1975. So there were some years there where he just waited on his plan. He didn't carry it through until this moment. And Red sort of hypothesized why perhaps Andy did not take advantage of his plan at that moment, and he says, I think that maybe Andy got scared. So this is page 98, and he links this to becoming an institutional man. So this is at the bottom of 98. I've told you as well as I can how it is to be an institutional man. At first you can't stand those 4 walls, then you get so you can abide them, then you get so you can accept them, and then as your body and your mind and your spirit adjust to live on an HO scale, you get to love them. You are told when to eat, when you can write letters, when you can smoke. If you're at work in the laundry or the plate shop, you're assigned 5 minutes of each hour when you can go to the bathroom. For 35 years, my time was 25 minutes after the hour, and after 35 years, that's the only time I've ever felt the need to take a piss or have a crap. Have 25 minutes past the hour, and if for some reason I couldn't go, the need would pass at 30 after and come back at 25 past the next hour. So Red talks about his own institutionalized nature, and he thinks that Andy has also been struggling with that after 30 years in prison. And he says, I think Andy may have been wrestling with that tiger, that institutional syndrome, and also with the bulking fears that all of it might have been for nothing. So there is the possibility that doubt crept in, as well as Andy maybe was scared or had become himself an institutional man and afraid of what it would be like on the outside, that he couldn't exist beyond the prison boundaries. But he went through with it. So he made that leap of faith, that final risk to carry through his plans to fruition. And then Red gets that postcard from McNary, Texas, that indicates that Andy is on the border of Mexico. So it is sort of a hopeful reminder that anything is possible for Red, who has, again, viewed himself as a very institutional man, but Andy seems to sort of inspire in him new hope for his own life. So on page 100 we get the first ending, I guess. There's sort of multiple endings. The Red's narrative stops and then starts again. He picks up his story once again on page 101 once he's actually been paroled. But at the end of, after Andy's escape on page 100, he reflects on this story and the fact that he sort of is addressing this idea that the story's about himself as well. It's not just Andy's story. And he talks about the connection that the two of them have. So on page 100 near the bottom, he says, well, you weren't writing about yourself. If I hear someone in the peanut gallery saying you were writing about Andy Dufresne, you're nothing but a minor character in your own story. But you know that's just not so. It's all about me, every damn word of it. Andy was the part of me they could never lock up. The part of me that will rejoice when the gates finally open for me and I walk out in my cheap suit with my $20 of mad money in my pocket. That part of me will rejoice no matter how old and broken and scared the rest of me is. I guess it's just that Andy had more of that part than me and used it better. So Red sort of acknowledges that Andy is not just a literal character, he's also a figurative or symbolic character, and he represents the part of himself that cannot be broken down or cannot be destroyed, the part of him that resists or challenges that institutionalization. So he's a sort of symbol of the freedom and hope that Red has sort of buried deep within himself, that's been suppressed all this time. And Andy sort of allows that to grow and thrive and inspires Red to really take another chance at life and invest sort of more hope and freedom within himself, and respect the fact that he is a special person as well. He's not just a prisoner, he's a man first, and then he's, capable of a lot in life. So he acknowledges what the prison system does, which is, you become old, broken, and scared the longer that you are a prisoner. And Andy is the one who sort of breathes new life into Red. So he's no longer just old, broke, and scared upon his parole. And this is sort of the surprise second ending when Red is actually paroled after 38 years of being behind bars. So Red is released, and he finds new inspiration through Andy's incentive to